We have a session now with Harshit Agrawal. I think, Harshit, you are online, I hope, and you can hear us.
Yeah,
How are you, bro?
I'm doing well.
Yeah? Where are you now,
How
actually?
about you guys?
Not too bad.
Yeah, I'm right now. I'm right now in India, and I will be traveling tonight to Boston.
Oh, wow.
So I'm shifting there to start my journey. I will be pursuing my masters in cybersecurity, and I will be doing my research over there with professors. So I'm really excited. Now I can have the real equipments to work on RF security, HDR, signal intelligence, and drone security. So I'm really excited about the future journey.
Congrats, man. Congrats. So,
Thank you.
we have a question actually from somebody in the audience, and they wanted to know about seeing that a lot of these devices are going to need batteries, right, to operate in the battlefield. Is battery technology going to become like a hindrance, as in battery life and power, portable power? How is that going to play a role?
Yeah, so it's one of the major challenges. There are three things which we need to think about in the battlefield scenario. One is the battery power. Second is how we are going to integrate these devices, how they are going to communicate. And the third thing is when we discuss about the security of these devices, then that's the major challenges. So for the battery, there are few things which is integrated in the military uniform. Right now they are using the kind of all of their uniform, it's all covered with the battery. So it's let's say if we are connecting it with a wire, and in the battlefield, let's say if wire gets disconnected, then you will be out of the power. So just to ensure that all of their soldier weights, it's made of the battery. And another challenge is the battery power. So most of them are using very low powered IoT devices, and which again increase the threat for the cryptography. That's the reason if we are using if there's a battery constraint, we cannot use the high powered computational devices for enduring security, the cryptography, and that are the security challenges going to always there. So battery constraint is one of the major thing which army military forces are working on and researching. And that's if we have a very good battery life, we can have the very good, we can use the advanced algorithm, cryptography algorithm to ensure the security as well.
So do you think that edge devices and solar could be a potential area that they would be looking into? Because AI on the edge devices together with automatic sensing weapons and it's charged by solar, it'd be awesome, right?
Yeah, it's not always possible because even if we talk about the autonomous weapons, so we might have heard about the slaughter bots. Mm-hmm. So they are using the facial recognition technology to fly around and find the targets and attack them. So that is again one of the challenges, because we need a solution which can be integrated in, which is also very easy to hand over. So let's say with automated weapons, we now have automated drones which are flying and killing the persons by themselves. There's no decision, no one to decide whether to kill it or not, whether this is a soldier, enemy, or a civilian. So with this all automated technology, there will be challenges like the moral factor. That's what I was discussing in the presentation. There will be so many different kind of advancement in the military technology. But again, the thing is about the moral standards. And that's why most of the military forces are now focusing on the cyber domain, the fifth domain of warfare. And NATO have also designated the cyber as an official domain. So in 2016, so it was let's say if some army have attacked me with a bullet or let's say tank or missile, the army can now answer the same with the cyber attack. Or if there's a cyber attack, they can answer it with the military forces. So it's it doesn't matter what kind of, in what form the attack is coming, our cyber is going to be one of the official domain. And there are many advantages to it. So why not?
What about what's going to be stopping attackers on the ground from just using an EMF pulse and just knock everything out, right? How do you defend against that?
Yeah. So if we see the images which I have shown, what exactly the modern battlefield looks like, there are radar, there are communication devices which soldiers are using to communicate between themselves. Then there are ground protocol devices, internet connected devices. Then we have our weapon, now the uniforms, which are also integrated with the ground control. But even like if we talk about the military equipments, so there are like electronic attack, electronic support. So all of these things are like trying to maneuver the actual battlefield, like jamming the enemy radars, the radar sensors like sensing the enemy aircraft. Then again we have like RCIED. So all of these devices, like it's not the scenario of complete battlefield has changed. And that's why we have EWPMT, like the electromagnetic management system. So UK and US military are right now working on it. So they can like manage all of these spectrum under one tool, and they can see like what kind of transmission is going on, what kind of frequency is accessible and what kind of frequency is not. Is there any jamming attack? If there's a jamming attack, let's say on 2.4 gigahertz, just for an example, so they will quickly move to 2.4 gigahertz to 5 gigahertz, 20 gigahertz, 26 gigahertz, and that shifting will be there. So for all of this purpose, we need a complete spectrum monitoring. So in the battlefield scenario, like they need to monitor from 1 kilohertz to up to 40 gigahertz. The reason is, for the communication, we will be using different frequency. For jamming, we will be using different. For radar operation, different frequency. So it's often complicated for a single radar system to operate it. And let's say if, for an example, if I'm attacking any IoT devices with a jamming attack. So for the Wi-Fi, like if I want to jam the Wi-Fi, I will be jamming on 2.4 gigahertz. Now I need to quickly shift my frequency from 2.4 gigahertz to 5.8 gigahertz in sense of military. And let's say if they have sensed that, okay, I have switched my frequency, then again I need to continuously like frequency hopping should be there. Mm-hmm. And that need to be very advanced. Like it should not be like, okay, it's delayed by 5 minutes. Because in battlefield scenario, if there's a delay of even a minute in the communication, then we are like the enemy forces will take advantage of it. So it need to be fast, it need to be secure, and also it need to be like remote solution. Like it should not be like we have a very large devices, because that cannot be deployed in the battlefield. So it need to be mobile. So these are again some of the challenges.
For independent researcher, so let's just say somebody who wants to start getting into RF, right? Like what would your advice be, as in terms of hardware to acquire, and like, which kind of protocols would be, where would you find the most bugs basically, and the most bang for buck, so that at least you don't get demotivated? In your opinion, what would you suggest?
So the most, like if I discuss from the general scenario, or like what practically happening in real life right now, drone in India is one of the major security challenges which we all are facing. And that is again based on the, if we like fire the bullet on it, if we fire the net guns on it, it's not going to be effective, because we need some solution which can tackle down 100 of drones down, and all are coming at the same time. So RF is one of the only solution which is going to play a role, and that can only counter all of the drones. This is an example with the drone. Now the same scenario comes like the, if we study the RF, there are hundreds of applications, we can take advantage of it. The same knowledge, same concept can be used to secure the airport. So in airport, like we have ASDE-X radar, which is used for like ground movement radar, we can say. So we can track using it like all of the aircraft, the bus or which we have on the ground of the airport. So now the challenge is like, let's say if there's any drone which is inside the proximity of aircraft or airport, it's very difficult for the radar system to detect it because of its size. And even like ASDE-X radar cannot detect it. So we need some kind of advancement there. So there we can use multiple HDR devices that can be deployed on various locations of the airport. So just because of the buildings, there's a shadow. And because of that shadow, HD radar was not able to detect. But with these cognitive HDR systems, we can detect it. So this is another example which can be used with the same knowledge and concept of the RF. Now the third thing is like same knowledge can be utilized in the battlefield. So let's say if I'm in a battlefield and I'm trying to communicate with the enemy. So, I'm trying to communicate with my friendly forces. So enemy can like fingerprint my RF's data, like whether I'm transmitting, on what frequency I'm transmitting. If let's say I want to secure myself and I don't want my enemy to know that I'm present here, so I should transmit my signals in a way that is on the enemy, like on which frequency enemy is also transmitting. So let's say if two people in the enemy side are transmitting on 1.4 gigahertz and they are actively listening on other frequency, and if somehow suddenly I transmit on 1.6 gigahertz, so they know now that there was no transmission done by us on 1.46 gigahertz. if there's a transmission, it means like there's someone from the opposite side. So this is how like the RF fingerprinting works. And once we have the RF signal, we can use it from the database to detect. So now the same knowledge and concept is being used for the battlefield scenario. Same thing can be used in our corporate offices. Many times we have like no cell phone policy or no wireless devices beyond this area, but still employers take it, like or clients take it. So how can we detect it? So we can have an environment where we can deploy the HDR sensors and we can identify that, okay, in our office, if people are coming with wireless headphone, they are coming with a smartwatch, they are coming with mobile phones. So it is only working on the frequency 900 megahertz, 2.4 gigahertz and 2.5 gigahertz. Let's say if there's someone broadcasting on a frequency of 2.1 gigahertz, we know now that there was no wireless devices in our corporate office which was allowed to work on 2.1 gigahertz. It means someone is trying to attack the Zigbee or LoRa protocol or devices of our environment. So this is how like we can use the same technology, same concept and same knowledge of RF in different domains of if real life. Another example like which I will say is a major challenges and need to be addressed is air traffic control. So on ATC tower, we are right now only monitoring the aircraft. The same ATC tower can be used to monitor the drone. So let's say if there's a drone, they need to register, like in India, we have a drone ID similar to the US. So person need to register their drone ID such as similar in a way like how our Wi-Fi router broadcast, like the IMEI, the MAC address. In the same way, drone will broadcast the drone ID. So we will know like, okay, this person is present over here, this drone is present over here. We need to ask this person to take it down. So as an independent security researcher, I will suggest everyone to focus on the basics of RF. And the basics of RF like antenna design, how radio frequency actually works, the maths and physics behind it. And that same knowledge can be used in all applications, like it depends on your interest. So yeah.
Cool. So if like, I mean, in terms of hardware, like what do we need? Like a hack RF1 or USRP, or what kind of hardware do I need to buy, man? Like how much are we talking about? Like if I want to start messing around with RF, right?
I think like most of our commercial devices which we are using daily life are using frequency from 1 gigahertz to 6 gigahertz. Mm-hmm. So RTL HDR can snip from, RTL HDR can only snip, it cannot transmit. So that cost hardly like $5 or $10. Okay. And that can be used to snip up to 2.1 gigahertz. So that is a good start for anyone to start. And we have like already delivered the talks at HITV Amsterdam and Cyber Week, like how we can use the RTL devices like HackRF, USRP to snip. So that can be a good start, because in that presentation we have discussed how can we start, what are the hardware and software we need to purchase. Again, like as a suggestion, HackRF is a half duplex device. So that is available for I think $300. Okay. So that can snip frequency as well as transmit, but not at the same time. So it often gets complicated when we are doing a research on drone, or if we want to pen test like a GSM for the telecom related attack. So at that time, like Blade RF and USRP is most, I will suggest like purchasing USRP and Blade RF, because that is full duplex. They can do the real-time attack in the real-time situation.
Cool, man. Thanks, bro. I think we're almost out of time. I see we have another 1 minute left.
Okay.
Thanks so much for joining us, and all the best again for your future masters, right? You're studying in Boston U, right?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay,
bro.
thank you so much. Yeah, because like I took like 5 minutes longer than the usual for my presentation. So Internet of Battlefield thing is like the emerging thing which is evolving, and now industries are focusing on it. So it was important to cover the basics. So I hope like if anyone you watching, like if you have any questions, still you can reach out to me on LinkedIn and Twitter, and I will shortly share my presentation with you. Yeah, thank you.
Perfect, man. Thanks a lot for joining us, bro. Stay safe. Have a good trip to Boston. Hopefully we'll see you next year in Amsterdam, right? In person, presenting some new research, and we'll have you back on stage again, yeah?
Or maybe Dubai.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Sriman. Thank you, Srilan.
Bye.
See you, bro. Ciao.